Hi everyone, my name is Gina Silvestri and I will be giving a presentation on the benefits of Inclusion Classroom and co-teaching. This is a topic that I'm really passionate about and I hope you enjoy this presentation. So just to start off, we're going to be talking about what is an inclusion classroom. So inclusion classrooms are where students with and without disabilities can learn together. These classrooms can look different based on the needs of the students in the class, and many times the classroom has different adults that are playing different roles. So this is kind of where it looks a little different from school to school or classroom to classroom. You might have two co-teachers and you might have a paraprofessional in the room as well. Now, what is co-teaching? So based on one of the articles I found, it defined co-teaching as the partnering of a general education teacher and a special education teacher or another specialist for the purpose of jointly delivering instruction to a diverse group of students, including those with disabilities or other special needs, in a general ed setting and in a way that is flexible and deliberately meeting the needs of the students in the class. So later in the presentation, we'll talk about how inclusion classrooms can benefit English language learners, and that might be another specialist that can be a co-teacher in that classroom to meet the needs of those students. So the intentions of co-teaching, it is to make it possible for students with disabilities to access the general curriculum while at the same time benefiting from specialized instructional strategies necessary to nurture their learning. So now we're just going to go into 6 different strategies for co-teaching. These are just different ways that co-teachers can teach their class. So the first one is one teach and one observe. So this is one of the strategies that should be done the least, as the co-teacher should have an equal part in the planning and the delivery of the lessons, so that each partnership has an equal. One or two times and to utilize this strategy would be at the beginning of the year. That way the students get to know each teacher's teaching style, or to collect data would be a great time to utilize one teach, one observe. The second one is station learning. So this is a great strategy for co-teachers, as it does not have the special education teacher exclusively working with the special education students, because that is a flaw that sometimes teachers will see, that the special education teacher exclusively works with just those students, but that's not their role. It's to share in the partnership. So you can have the students rotate each section, just like it's done in a lot of general education classrooms with one teacher. Now you can have 2 stations be teacher directed so that you can meet even more needs of your students in the classroom. The next strategy is called parallel teaching. This is when both teachers are teaching about the same topic, but the class is split in half. So this is a great way to increase student participation and to be able to differentiate each lesson for the specific kids in your group. The next strategy is called alternative teaching, where this is when one teacher is teaching the majority of the students while the second teacher is teaching a small group. So this strategy might be good when in times of enrichment or in times of remediation. It might be good in times of pre-teaching assessments, or even when some students might be out of the room for some reason. I know the school that I was at had band, and a lot of the times like 4 or 5 kids would leave the room for a band lesson. So maybe when they come back, it would be a great time for one of the teachers to meet with them about what they missed. So the next strategy is called team teaching. So this is when both the teachers are teaching the whole class. So this could be both the teachers are lecturing, or it could be like in math, showing 2 different ways to solve one problem might be a great way to use this strategy. Or maybe even the 2 teachers have opposing views and are showing like a type of debate and how 2 people can interact and in a disagreement. Or it could be that one teacher is providing different expertise on the topic from the other teacher. And lastly, this one is called one teach, one assist. This is when one teacher is doing the main teaching and the other teacher is going around and circulating, maybe redirecting students. Again, this one should be used the least, as it is a shared classroom and both teachers should be seen as equal partnership. So now we're going to go into the importance of inclusion and co-teaching. So some things that need to go into creating a great co-teaching relationship would be the time for planning. I know in a lot of the research it said that that was one of the constraints, is that teachers felt like they didn't have enough planning time. So for co-teaching to really work, they need to have a great amount of planning time and also appropriate training. Another thing that co-teachers need is the support from administration. They also need a partner that is collaborative and they have great communication with. And lastly, one ingredient that you need for co-teaching would be equality among the partners. This is really important unless it was predisposed that one teacher has more expertise in the curriculum, or maybe they have professional judgment that the other teacher doesn't have. But if that didn't happen prior to, then it needs to be an equal partnership so that both teachers feel like they have an equal share in the relationship. So why co-teaching? Why do classrooms need more than one teacher? Like, isn't one teacher enough? Well, co-teachers allow classrooms to become inclusive, as the special education teacher has the expertise in meeting the needs of the special education teachers in the classroom. This is really important, and we'll get into later why inclusion classrooms are so great. Second, it lowers the teacher to student ratio. So the classroom size isn't growing. You're not going to have 50 students in the classroom. You're going to have 2 teachers for, say, like 25 students. This allows for more instructional time for small groups to meet the needs of all students, and at a lot quicker of a rate than if there was one teacher in the classroom. Students who learn in smaller groups both retain and achieve more in the classroom. So wouldn't it be great to have 2 teachers in the classroom to meet the needs of a small group? And lastly, more collaboration occurs when there is more than one adult in the room. So as they say, like, 2 heads are better than 1. Okay, so now we're going to get into the benefits of an inclusion classroom for special education students. So in the research study academically, it was found that a greater number of students with learning disabilities were able to progress in reading at a rate that was paralleled to their peers without disabilities when compared to those that were pulled out of the classroom for resource room. Next, for IEP goals, studies have reported that placement in inclusion programs have resulted in improved educational outcomes for students with disabilities, including improved standardized test scores, reading performance, mastery of IEP goals, grades, on-task behavior, motivation to learn, and greater success in making the transition to adulthood. So those are some ways that special education students have benefited from being in an inclusive classroom with general education students. Next is socially, which is really important. In a research study, it revealed that students with severe disabilities educated in a general education classroom had more social contacts and richer relationship networks that included peers without disabilities, and provided and received more social support than their peers who were educated in a self-contained classroom. So it's really showing that special education students are benefiting socially from being around general education students. Lastly, special education students' self-esteem has improved from being in an inclusive classroom. So surveys completed by teachers and parents and anecdotal information indicated that students with learning disabilities had improved levels of self-esteem and motivation, and that their behavior resembled the behavior of their classmates without disabilities. So you can even say that the general education students have kind of become a role model for the special education students in a general education classroom. So I also found that there are some negative effects to pulling students out of the classroom. So pulling students out of the classroom sometimes can cause anxiety and fear of missing out. In one of the studies, it says that students were interviewed, and the results indicated that the students felt that special education settings they were supported, they were enjoyable in a quiet learning environment in which they could receive the academic assistance and the help they needed. However, the students also expressed some anxiety over the academic and recreational activities that they were missing while they were pulled out of the general education classroom. Some another negativity that some special education students have felt from being pulled out of the classroom has been feelings of frustration, isolation, and some of them were even victims of bullying. So another research used interviews and narratives depicting the personal school-based experience of sixth grade, and seventh graders with learning disabilities. And it was found that when they were being pulled out of the classroom, they felt anger, they felt frustration, they felt isolated from their classmates in the special ed classroom, and they were actually a victim of personal attacks, name calling, and ridicules by classmates. So those are just some negatives to pulling students out of the classroom. Co-teaching also benefits students without disabilities. So it was found in a lot of the research that even students without disabilities had a promotion of acceptance, understanding, and tolerance of individual differences. Students have a greater awareness and sensitivity to others' needs, and students without disabilities were more likely to form friendships with the students with the differences. So those are some great ways that even the non-special education students were benefiting from an inclusive classroom. Lastly, back to the English language learners that I was talking about previously, they are also great students that benefit from co-teaching and from inclusive classrooms. So students are exposed more to the English language, giving them even more opportunity to hear and understand how native English language speakers speak. They're also more exposed to a higher English vocabulary and slang, which is also essential in learning the English language. English language learners in an inclusive classroom, it offered them a place to practice speaking to other students and using even the other students as a role model for good English language use. And finally, not only did the inclusive classroom benefit the English language learner student themselves, but the other students also got exposed to a new language and a new culture, and it promoted the student acceptance and knowledge, and the other students became a member of the global community in learning about where this student came from. So that's another way that inclusive classrooms can be used. So finally, of course, there needs to be more research on this topic to improve the credibility of it. And overall, the research is newer as it is a newer topic and it is a little inconsistent, but I think those are some benefits that we can look at and really learn from. If you would like to learn a little bit more, I have some links down below. One of a TED Talk about the power of inclusive classrooms, one about an interview with a co-teacher and how they were talking about how co-teaching is kind of like a marriage. And then lastly, I created a handout that can be used to teach others about the benefits of co-teaching and the benefits of an inclusive classroom. So actually, I'm going to try to show you that right now. These are just my references. And then this is also a link to the brochure. Let's see if I could pull it up. Oh, here we go. Okay. So this would just be the cover. Again, these are those two links to the TED Talk and to the co-teaching is like a marriage interview. The QR codes that you could scan with your phone to bring up those videos right there. And then on the other side would be the benefits of inclusive classrooms for students with disabilities, like we talked about here, students without disabilities, and how inclusive classroom benefits English language learners down here too. In the middle, the recipe for making co-teaching successful, and then on the right-hand side, the benefits of co-teaching and how it lowers the student-to-teacher ratio, allows inclusive classrooms to occur with ease, and the collaboration. Okay, so that is my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you see the benefits of inclusive classrooms and co-teaching as well, as we could really meet the needs of a lot of students by using this method. Thank you for watching my presentation. If you have any questions, let me know, and I hope you have a great night. Thank you for watching.